The 9 Practices book.
Hey, everybody. You could tell hey, you know what? Here was our plan. I was waiting for comments to come back onto the channel, be like, where's Trey and Caleb? We want it back. And so I was like, we're never going to do a podcast again until people demand it.
Did they?
Nope.
Yeah.
So finally, we gave in before they did.
Yeah. I mean, it feels weird. The lighting's different.
Playing hard to get doesn't always work. The lighting is different. I actually think it's better.
Mm-hmm.
Like visually, as I'm looking, you don't see what it looks like. But also, though, just to be clear, so there's a few reasons why we haven't been podcasting together. One is you keep losing your voice.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
So we've had all of a sudden it started going out just now.
I'm good.
There's been several, like the last couple of weeks. It's like, you ready? And it's like all of a sudden you're just gone. So we haven't been able to do that. But usually after a practice, so we had witness practice all the way back in August at this point. It's only October. But we don't pod because we're trying to leave space to do some interviews. But then finding people, the time to interview during the whole month of October because it's fall break proves a little bit difficult. So shout out to Cade, who did have an interview on here already, and we do have a few more scheduled. So all that's taken care of. All that to say, I'm excited to be back, but I'm also excited to share with you a resource that I have been praying about, thinking about. Definitely, I put this in your ear last year around this time, thinking, man, we put so much effort into this, but also more than that, we want to create a resource where people who've been a part of our journey can easily like catch up on what we've done or remember what we've done. And those who are not a part of our journey but are just joining us, maybe we're trying to give as many valuable ways to get people just on the same page as fast as possible. And I know that the fastness kind of goes against formation to some degree, but I do think it's good just to get a big overview. So that's why we created, it's out today. So you're officially a published Amazon author.
Nice.
We need to fix your author bio. But it's out today. This now I'm about to get the version tomorrow that doesn't have this, not for resale. But there it is, by Trey Van Camp and Caleb Martinez. It is a 177-page book outlining all 36, technically 37 teachings, because my intro, How We're Formed, was from our Vision series. So we adapted our sermons and put it into book form. And it's a consolidated, it's not word for word manuscript. If you want that is available on our website. But what we did was just kind of consolidate it into like a 12 to 1500 like word chapter. And there we are.
Yeah, it's cool. I haven't, so have you read it all?
Yeah.
You've read it? I mean.
Of course.
Okay.
Well, I was the one. So Lexi helped me put this together.
Right.
But as I designed it, I made sure to read everything and make sure all the periods and everything was on the right spot. And every beginning of the, like the new chapter or the new practice shows our working definition. And I'm really excited about it. You have any questions, Pastor Caleb?
No, I think it's a really good. Yeah. So who is it for? I mean, this isn't just for new people.
Right.
It's basically a synthesis, I think, of the last 3 years, all the work we put in structuring our church. The past 3 years, our church has been centered around what we've called these like 9 core practices. And this book will hopefully be, I guess I'm answering my own question, a refresher for people to go back.
I feel like I already said that, but yes.
I guess, did you? Okay. And then, to get people caught up, not in a quick way, but yeah. How much is it?
So because of Amazon, and we made it into a coffee table book. So I really like the size. It's hardcover.
Yeah.
We are not here to make a killing. A killing. Thank you. There it is again. A killing off of this. It's $18.99. So like, for example, here's the Peacemaking episode 3. It was called Framing Your Pain. The headers are, another step in peacemaking. It remembers the definition. It talks about in week 1, we emphasize forgiving your past. You're shaped by it, but don't have to be shackled to it. Week 2, we focused on forging new patterns. When disappointment knocks, do you run to drama, dopamine, or discipleship? I don't know if you remember that line, but I was proud of it. And if you have the audacity to wrestle with God, you gain the capacity to reconcile with others. Now comes the big challenge of framing your pain. So then I'm now going up, 4 types of pain: pain that comes from others, pain that comes from ourselves, pain that comes from the unfairness of life, and pain that comes from God. So this is a good example. So it just shows the 4 types of pain. It's not that alone can be a whole exhaustive chapter. Do you need to see it yourself?
Well,
so it's a good little summary, and it gets us, and then it talks about Cain's cautionary tale. It does some of that work, and then it moves to Jesus in the garden, and we see just in this one page, what are the 4 things Jesus did in the garden? He named his pain. He invited others to care for him in his pain. He asked God to remove his pain, and he surrendered his heart to trust the Father's love. So does that make sense?
That's good. Yeah. If I'm on Amazon right now,
link in description
of this YouTube video. What should I search? Because I feel like people.
Oh, it might do that because
Yeah.
I wonder the searchability when something first releases doesn't work. But
Right.
look up 9 practices to make disciples. See if it shows up. If not, link in description, and it will begin to populate, especially once people start purchasing.
It's number 1.
Number 1. Boom. Is it really?
And then it's 9 marks right after that.
So that's hilarious.
it's a good.
Yeah.
So it works.
So it's there. The back of the book says, trying to perform for Jesus leads to death. Training to become like Jesus leads to life. And then we're linking our formbyjesus.com where it has all these resources. The other fun thing is on every section, I'm not calling it chapters, but every section. So like this one's on prayer. So this talks about the Elijah's ABCs masterclass. If you remember, it's ambiguous, it's brief, it's costly. So on the top, it says, go to formbyjesus.com/prayer. And then that's where you can get the teaching, your guides, so much more. But this is kind of, in theory, I don't imagine someone who's been at our church starting at page 1.
Oh, okay. Is it like a reference book? Like
It's like, you know what?
dip in and out?
Like it's almost like I need that refresher on simplicity. Let me go. Okay, simplicity here is page 43. So now I go to 43 and read those.
Nice.
Or you can read one, but like I think, some books. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Some books you have to start at page 1.
Yeah.
This one you don't have to.
Should I leave a review?
Yeah, that would be hilarious.
If I review it? Am I allowed to
You have
do
to
that?
buy it first. I think you have to have like evidence. No, you don't have to,
don't think
because
so,
you
yeah.
can like buy it from someone else or somewhere else.
Nice.
If you leave 3 stars.
The content is okay. 2 chapters are great. The rest are mediocre. Anyway.
So 2 of them are from Pastor Caleb's teachings. And then the rest is, of course, influenced by him. So he, of course, deserves his name on here. But I think it's worth mentioning, when we took his sermons, we could not consolidate it down to 1,200 words. So it is the 2 largest number of pages per practice.
I said, I'm going to leave my mark. I got 2 chances.
When we started this journey 3 years ago, I was a lot more protective of these practice series. I slowly started giving you some.
Well, I didn't do my first one till this year, so that's pretty cool.
I slowly.
Yeah, that's
so
good.
you did 2 this year out of the.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah, you're just good at everything. This was like my one lane, No, but it's funny too because in your chapters there's less headings.
Yeah.
It's 2 full pages of the sophist movement. And it was like, we don't know where, I can't delete any of this.
It's like Shakespeare and then sophistry.
Yes.
And I'm sorry.
No, everybody loves you. This is great. So to support us, man, it's like $3 a book.
Is what?
The profit will be like $3.
We're making something off of this?
Well, let's
Nice.
give it to the church.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's build a building.
Yeah. Sounds
Let's
good.
become a New York Times bestseller and just.
This is heading in a weird direction. I think this podcast.
No. Okay. Let's reel that back. Truly, the purpose is to be a blessing to our church.
Yeah.
I am vlogging about it on my channel because other pastors are asking questions. So I'm
Yeah.
hoping other churches do the kind of the same thing. But we are not trying to make it on any bestseller list. I say that, and all of a sudden you see ads this week,
Yeah,
and I'm like, hey guys,
yeah.
have you heard of this?
Yeah. On like YouTube, it's like a sponsored thing. Man.
Yeah. So
I like it. Yeah, that's a cool thing. Yeah. It's a cool thing to have as a resource. And I think hopefully, I don't know, if you feel, it is a little sentimental. It's like a sentimental thing to have like a, you were a part of this. And I think and we said this from the get-go, like they're not to bag on churches or anything like that, but we have a vision of, I think, what we want our church to be and what we want it to look like in the future, long after we're gone. And what that vision is seems rare right now. And so it's cool to have had that, to have put so much work into it, and to have come to the end of it with like a product you can hold in your hand saying, like, this is the fruit, well, not the fruit, but just a symbol of what we've done and what we feel like God has asked us to do. And now we're excited to embark on the next chapter. So
yeah, it was really cool. You and I were in Malibu a couple weeks ago for, what do we call it? Just a cohort.
Yeah.
And they were talking about the importance of defining your story. And they were saying how, because so many pastors, they're coming into a church that was already started 100 years ago. So like, you need to learn the story. But then they said, if you are a church planner, you need to make sure you're telling the story. And really it is, especially with us, God providentially giving us land and us, on the journey of paying that off and getting a building. We are recognizing that what we are investing in is well beyond us, as you just said. And I do think it's important for us to leave behind some artifacts, not as a museum, not as a, you have to always do church this way. There needs to always be new wineskins. But I do think, man, the heart of what we're doing, I pray that it goes generations beyond what we're doing, and that's still the core. Now, the manifestations of those things, I think, always kind of look a little different, but I think you and I are so sold on this idea of formation, being formed by Jesus together for others. It's like, that seems to be such a good crux of what discipleship really is. But I'd be interested in the 9 practices. What would those, maybe down the road? No, there should be 7, and it's actually... You should include worship and then get rid of
one.
Or we add one or whatever. So we're holding that with open hands. So it is kind of nice to have a resource to say, this was God's journey for our church, 2023 through 2025, really end of 22 to 25. And awesome. But it is so fun because I remember when you and I were talking back in 2022 and we laid out the 3 years, we were like, what do we do after that? We're like, we'll worry about that when we get there.
Yeah.
And what a grace that we have more vision than ever, kind of more excitement, but also not leaving that foundation.
It's I keep thinking of when you read, especially Genesis, so often after Abraham has an encounter with God at Bethel, he sets up an altar. And he moves on and he keeps going on his journey, where Noah will set up an altar as a sacrifice, and it's still there. The text will say it's still there to this day or whatever, indicating that these benchmarks are meant for generations to go back and look at where God kind of intervened and met people, did something in that time and space. And even though they've moved on, so even though our church is continuing to go on,
right,
we're not stuck in these 3 years rehashing the same things every year. We're moving forward, but we still want to tell the story in such a way that people are able to look back and hopefully say, God was in this place. Here's what God did through us. Here's the benchmarks of our journey and how that's gone. And just a reminder of God's faithfulness. It'd be cool too if people, if you pick up the book or whatever, you're flipping through it and you remember you read a chapter on peacemaking and you think I remember I tried to reconcile with this person when I did that. It just triggers a memory and it's like, man, that went horribly, or that went great. Or I remember fasting for the first time. It's like a little, like a diary or something, like a memento of hopefully not just our journey as a church, but people who are reading it can see their own lives reflected in it as they've participated and kind of dipped in or dipped out of the practices with us. So that's cool.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I'm excited just to have that as a resource. We did buy some copies to put at the merch box, but that they're not shipping. We ordered author copies. So what's nice about author copies is it's actually we'll be able to sell them even cheaper in person because it's cheaper to buy author copies. The problem is because they know you're getting it cheaper, they just delay shipping. So it's like mid-November, we'll get 20 of these that we'll put in the merch box. So if you guys want to wait for that, that's fine.
What's an author
copy?
Don't want to
wait for that.
Is it different?
An author copy literally means they're taking out any profit, obviously from oneself. It's like, we're not going to, but then they make it super, they make it cheaper. I don't know. I don't know. It's just the profit from them. And I think they get you don't pay for any shipping, which is hence why it just takes forever to come.
Yeah. Cool.
So, the cheapest we could make this resource is $18. But to buy an author copy is like $11. So, yeah. So anyways, so we'll have those available, or you can buy it now. We're just excited for that resource. Shout out to Brady Shearer, who kind of also gave a little more direction on how we can, because I was thinking of a book, and I was like, oh, a coffee table book. That's from Brady. It's like, that's such a great, I like that idea more. And I think I think if it's in book form, I think you and I, it would require a little bit more extensive, like, okay, let's make sure word for word this is perfect.
Right.
This is like these are good sermon summaries. I feel good about it being in the size of a coffee table book.
Yeah, that's good.
Isn't that weird how like different sizes insinuate different expectations?
Yeah, well, you're not gonna walk around reading a coffee table book like
right
out and about. But if it's a book, you would expect to engage with it. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. But some of my favorite books have been coffee table books. As I look over here and see none.
I was gonna say, what are you looking at? There's none.
There's one down there in the bottom right corner.
Oh, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, I put them over there in the bottom right.
Nice. Okay.
And they're often like workbooks too.
Yeah.
But my favorite one's the Bible Project.
Oh, that thing's
Everyone
huge.
should get that. It's here. You keep talking.
Okay.
I'm gonna show the people because that's one of my favorite resources.
Yeah. Well, it's like a massive book. I don't know what to talk about. We're pretty influenced by the Bible Project. I think what we've learned from them is not. Yeah.
Hold on.
What we've learned from them is not just how to put a coffee table book together, but how to read the Bible. Man, I hate when he does this. We're gonna lose so many viewers. Yes, I am. What?
I didn't hear my question.
They didn't hear it. If I'm floundering without you, but they don't need to hear your question to tell that I'm floundering. See, that's what I was expecting was a cloth-bound version.
Oh yeah, look how big this thing is. But this is incredible. So it's all the videos that Bible Project has made. Here's Jonah, and then the top gives the script.
Yeah.
So you can find all this on YouTube, but it's really nice. We walk through this with our kids often. And
that's
so we
cool.
just kind of go through the stories. And so Faith's asking a lot of questions about the Old Testament. So it's really fun just to use this as a resource to walk them through. So
that thing's massive.
Really nice and heavy, expensive. But I was like, it's really, it's really cool to support them.
That's a cool thing for them to do too. They kind of did the same thing we did. So they took
Did I put the camera on you while I left? I don't know. So that would have been even more fun.
If it's just an empty chair of you, that'd be great.
So anyways, let's talk about the parables now. Let's shift gears if you're fine with that. What a joy it's been. We're now, it's 8 or 9 weeks into the parables.
Yeah,
and,
so yesterday
we're going to do like 13.
8th week, yep.
What have been some of your takeaways and just kind of your own research and preaching them? And then we'll kind of zero in on the Good Samaritan since that was yesterday.
Yeah. I think the parables, so when I introed them, it was a lot of like, these are some of the most familiar teachings of Jesus. And even reading, so like the Good Samaritan, for example, or the Prodigal Son, which I taught a couple weeks ago, or the Parable of the Talents, I think those are really well known.
True.
Some of the other ones before
I was tempted to skip some of those because it's like these are so well known. But that's what's nice. It's like, no, we didn't get it.
Yeah.
We'll never get it. There's always so many. The longer you linger, the more you learn.
Yeah, there's more layers to it. Yeah, there are details in there that I haven't really slowed down to read The Good Samaritan in a long time. So when I come across it in my readings or whatever, I'm tempted, like everyone, just to kind of skim over it and be like, okay, I get this, and I want to go to something else. But there are so many little things in there that are really interesting that I think the parables are meant to slow you down. And I think that's why Jesus told them, which was they are very counterintuitive. Parables are not a like logical teaching tool for getting information into your head. And I think that should tell us that that's not the point of them. Although that's not the surface. That's not the only point of them, I should say.
We kind of don't have in our education system that kind of genre of learning.
Yeah, it's like the Mr. Miyagi wax on, wax off. Like that was infuriating. And whenever that movie came out in 1980, because Danny LaRusso wants to come in and just learn how to do karate. Tell me what I need to know. And Mr. Miyagi teaches him. That's weird that I just went into this as an illustration, but
that's a sermon intro. You better save this.
Yeah. Well, he tells him, it's the whole wax on, wax off. It's like you need to slow down and learn some of these fundamentals that are going to shape not just how you fight later on in the movie, but how you view fighting and the role it plays in your life. And I think that's the temptation with the teachings of Jesus, is to just apply what you can right away. So something like the Sermon on the Mount is great, although really difficult to apply, but easy because you know what you're supposed to do right away.
At least know.
And the parables are like Mr. Miyagi slowing you down and kind of stopping you in your tracks and making you think like, I want an answer to this question. Who's my neighbor? Just tell me so I can know if I'm in the clear or not. And Jesus tells a story where you're like, wait, what? Like, what's the thing? And I don't want to know about this. I just want to know who I need to love and serve. But they stick in your head. And Eugene Peterson has that great line where it's like a ticking time bomb that it goes in your heart and then it explodes when you're not expecting it.
Because you didn't realize the parable was about you.
Right, exactly. Or you thought you were one character and you realize, oh man,
I'm the older brother, as
I'm
you
the older
mentioned.
brother. Yeah.
Yeah, and usually we never think about being the older brother. It's like, oh, I have a younger brother, or I was once a younger brother, but now I'm in church.
Yeah.
It's like, well, now the big temptation is for you to become the older brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good. And I love how, I think I learned from Klein Snodgrass, his commentary, it's called Stories with Intent, is such a good treatment of the parables. Great commentary, really does. It gets very heady and like does a historical research on everything. Why'd I bring him up? He, I just started thinking how great Klein was. What was I saying? What were you just saying? What are we doing?
We were talking about how you see yourself as different characters, and for a while you think you're the younger brother and the prodigal son, and then you realize you're the older brother, and the parables are meant to slow you down for you to see yourself reflected. Yeah, it's gone, isn't it?
It's a great commentary. You guys should read. I got nothing.
Anyways.
But I have really appreciated how he's handled that. Wow. It's been a long day, hasn't it even? Now this podcast is, everyone's logging off.
Yeah, it's okay.
Oh, comment below if you've seen, what's it called? The Karate Kid?
Yeah.
I've never have.
You've never seen The Karate Kid?
No.
You would love it.
Really?
Are you kidding me?
I saw the Will Smith son. No, I don't even see that one. The Jackie Chan and what's his name? Jada.
I don't know. Oh my gosh, you would love it. It's so good. Yeah,
Yeah, I've never seen it.
Classic. Man, what a weirdo.
I've never seen E.T. I put those in similar categories. I've never seen, maybe these are bad movies. I'm not, The Goonies?
You've never seen The Goonies?
Yeah, isn't that like, to me, those are like 80s classics that I just have never.
Have you seen Back to the Future?
Yes.
Okay, Indiana Jones.
But not until I was like mid-20s.
Okay, yeah. I mean, Back to the Future.
I haven't seen all the Indiana Jones, but I've been on the ride 398,000 times.
But it just made no sense to you because you were like, what's...
Yeah. I was like, what is this pagan stuff?
Yeah. Why are there snakes everywhere? Yeah, you love The Karate Kid. That's crazy. You should watch it.
Okay, teaching. Yeah. Yes. So that is what's nice. I think the biggest, the version we have of it is movies and fiction. You know, as far as like learning from stories. Yeah. And I think there is still value of that in our culture. But I do think even movies are leaning towards like trying to beat it over your head what the point is. And really good storytelling is to leave it so open. That's why like Scorsese is so frustrating because it's like, was he good or bad?
Yeah.
Like which person, like in the movie Silence, like that ending bothers me.
Yeah.
It's like exactly.
It's why... it's why Christian movies are typically really bad because they're beating you over the head with like, this is David and Goliath, but it's football. It's like, great. I know the end. I know how it ends. Like, there's no...
C.S. Lewis, he would argue that, would he call it myth or, like fiction? Myth is often the greatest truths. How does he pitches it by just saying essentially, now he's, of course, the Bible is God's holy word. But like often to get people for those truths, those big truths to penetrate, you put it through the form of a story like Chronicles of Narnia.
Yeah, stories. It's because stories transform us. What we want is information. What we need is transformation. And so instead of just teaching, because Jesus gives plenty of that, he also gives stories. So he informs us. He gives us ways to remap our reality so that we see who God is and who we are and who others are. But then he pairs it with a story, sometimes to make things clear. I said that in the intro, it doesn't always though. It sometimes makes things more confusing. In fact, that's what Jesus himself says is, I'm telling you these parables so that they won't understand because they're already positioning themselves in a way that they don't want to.
Yeah.
But stories are the things that actually change us and transform us. It's why we share stories on Sundays. And
yeah. I want to connect the dots why we're doing parables.
Yeah.
So the whole year, the theme is fourth quarter, fourth soil. And I think a fourth soil heart is the heart that actually hears and listens to the parables. So that's why, and obviously, fourth soil is a parable itself. But that's why we were thinking as we designed this year, let's anchor our hearts into the parables, because Jesus, after, before, during the parables is constantly saying, he who has ears to hear, listen. And it's so easy to hear the parables, but not actually listen and obey. And I think a big one is the Good Samaritan. So like in your mind, from us, as we're thinking about it still this week, the Good Samaritan parable, what parts of it are hard for us to actually listen and obey?
I had a thought, and I was talking to somebody. We were hanging out with somebody, another family last night, and we were talking about it. I don't want. You're going to take this in a way that I don't want you to take it.
You hated my sermon.
No, there's one point you made that I didn't think about when I was reading your notes on Friday, but part of me was like, man, okay, because you mentioned busyness, right?
Yeah.
So we're often too busy or too hurried to actually go by and help. And I think that there's the wrong takeaway to me is, yes, we need more margin, but I think, so a lot of us do need to actually do less, but I don't think that we should feel bad for being busy. Like to have kids and to be privileged enough to take them to social events and to school and church and all those, like those will fill up our days. And Jesus himself was busy. The Samaritan was going from point A to point B. The difference is, and this is where I struggle and where this parable kind of hits me and where I have a hard time, like actually listening, is like Jesus and the Good Samaritan were both busy, but they were interruptible. And so like the Good Samaritan was able, because he left 2 days later, or he left the guy and then he kind of went on his way, but he was willing to be inconvenienced for the sake of another. And I think that's Jesus's thing. Like Jesus was always moving. He had a Sabbath rhythm and silence and solitude, but he was going from place to place because he had a mission.
Yeah.
So he was a busy person. And there are all sorts, John Mark Comer talks about busyness versus hurry and why those two things are not the same. Hurry is the bad thing, but it's good to be busy. We're made to work and to do things. And so for a lot of us, busyness is an actual issue. But I think the heart of the parable is, are you willing to be inconvenienced for the sake of another? And so that can look like you're, driving and you get a phone call from somebody who needs help. And it's like, man, I got a choice. I got to get to work or I'm going to be late, or I actually can, go. Or it's even like, I've set out my agenda for the day and my kids don't let me sermon prep as much as I would because I'm working from home, which is like that's a very real, like, Ronald Rolheiser in his book, Domestic Monastery, talks about that. For working parents, sometimes that's more formative than actually being a monk or a nun in a monastery, because you have these divine interruptions. We just call them children. And so that to me is the hard part for me as I'm looking at this, is like, am I willing to be inconvenienced and be interruptible, and still maintain my like duty as a father, husband, leader, Christian, to actually work with my hands and be busy? How do I find that margin and create it so that I am interruptible and respond well? And that's the end goal of formation, right? So that we actually are still busy, but we're not hurried and we're able to be inconvenienced for the sake of others.
I think there's still a way to be too busy.
Agreed.
And I also think I had 19 other thousand points to make, so I had to just move forward.
I knew you were going to take it that way.
And
furthermore,
no, I think it's helpful. I think it's really good for people. I'm actually willing to be misunderstood if someone like wrestles with it and comes to a really good conclusion. Like that. Sometimes I know you and I, sometimes we drop a bomb and it's like, we're not even going to like tidy that up for you. I love when people come up to me after like, well, here's what I'm like, okay, good. I'm glad you came to that conclusion.
Yeah.
What I was trying to say.
I knew you were going to take it that way.
No, I think we are busy with stupid things though.
Yeah, that's true.
So like when I went to college, I remember, so one of the biggest blessings from my family that I've gotten. So they do hurry. Okay. We work really hard. But we don't spend a lot of time on really stupid stuff.
Right.
So like when I went to college and people are like, oh, this 6-page paper and and I was like, I'm going to Disneyland having fun and getting this done in time. What are you doing? So I started like watching my friends and the amount of time they don't consider that they waste away, that I would call waste away. And I know everyone has different. This is what I love about Klein Snodgrass, bringing it back to an actual point he made. He said it's really good from the Good Samaritan, and it's not a 10 bullet point, like, man, if you see someone that has these qualities, you have to stop what you're doing. Because he's like, in reality, sometimes you really do need to go to the next thing.
Right.
Sometimes you truly can't. Like, imagine trying to apply this parable in New York City. You'll see a homeless person every 15 feet, and now all of a sudden you have all this guilt. Oh, I got to give everything I have and give him 2 weeks stay at a hotel. Like, so there is a way to overreact to this. And so I do love the stories, because it's like, okay, Holy Spirit, guide me. Where am I too busy, like the Levite, where probably he had legitimate excuses. And I mentioned those excuses. But clearly, Jesus was like, he missed the point, you know? So I think those are all helpful. But all that to say, I think we are busy, and I think this goes back to January when we're talking about consecration. Maybe we shouldn't watch as many TV shows. Maybe we shouldn't play as many video games. Maybe, like, I think those are the things we never consider as, oh, I'm so busy. But it's like the reason you're exhausted with the other things you should be busy with is because you're wasting that margin, that rest time, and you're handing it over to laziness.
The leisure, it's usually the leisure that makes you more tired, because we don't know how to rest well. We're in a culture of consumption, so
it's
leisure
the Simplicity
to us,
series.
Yeah, they all connect. That's amazing.
So does that make sense? So like I have found I am exhausted, feel overrun when I am watching too much YouTube. Even if it's like, you know, no, this is a good podcast about this information.
Right, yeah.
But it's like my brain, I've had enough. I don't need that. Yeah. So like if I'm reading more than I'm watching, I'm in a healthier spot. If I am like put my phone on brick, you know, like all of those things, I think those are the small ways we can get our margin back. I think that's a really good discussion.
Yeah. Have you seen that video? It's Arthur Brooks. I think it's the Harvard Review. And he talks about how boredom is actually like deeply important for you as a human being. So to regulate your mental state and like actually putting yourself in positions to be bored more often can like statistically decrease your likelihood of like developing depression and anxiety, or depressive and anxious tendencies at least. So if it's not a diagnosed thing, it could be like these just impulses we have to not be able to find meaning when we put our screens down, things like that.
I know I'm more creative when I'm bored. Like
that's that
incubation period of like, but like letting it sit, and all of a sudden the sermon series comes into play, but you have to let that boredom do its work.
Yeah, we've talked about this before. A lot of my sermons, I think you said the same thing. My sermons mostly don't get written like in front of a computer. It's like when I'm at the gym or when I'm like driving to go pick up groceries or whatever. It's like that you need the period where you're absorbing
like those shower thoughts.
Yes, exactly. You need to absorb information so you have stuff to think about. But then you need that period of incubation or marination or whatever you want to call it. And I think for the parables, to tie it back to the Good Samaritan and to formation in general, what we're trying to do is give you the stuff to do the practices, whether it's Sabbath or simplicity or whatever, scripture, and you're doing those things in conjunction with like you creating margin in your life to actually reflect.
Yeah.
So this is a really helpful thing actually that I think we need to do better at. And this comes from practicing the way. So when you look at some of the resources from other churches,
like our leadership and how we lead, or our church,
it's
or
like
what do you mean we?
I'll explain. I'll explain. In the practicing the way, when they will introduce a practice or something like that, you look at different guides they've written and things like that. And they'll have a thing where it's like a specific page where in between you doing the practices, there's like, reflect on your experience. What went well, what didn't go well. So we have a version of that in our guides and we ask that, but there's like a specific, like you set aside time to actually think like, okay, did I feel rested on Sabbath? Why not? Because they quote somebody, he's a South African, I think neuroscientist or something. I might be wrong on that. Where he says like, you don't change from your experience. You change from your reflection on your experience.
Right.
And so I don't know how that ties. I think to me it ties into this somehow. The Good Samaritan, but it's that period of like, okay, I've done this for a while. How did it actually shape me and form me? Is it shaping me to actually be somebody who's able to slow down at a moment's notice if it's going to help someone in need? Or am I so obsessed with Sabbath and rest that I won't? I mean, who among you wouldn't pick your, ox out of a ditch if it fell, kind of thing?
Well, the monks, like they have like a big vow of fasting, and they do, 40 days at a time, but they have a rule: if a visitor comes in, all bets are off. We're giving them the best dinner ever. I'd be praying for visitors all the time.
Yeah, right. It's like, does anybody want to come?
Does anybody? Just subtle invites.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the heartbeat where it's like, man, we're really flexible with all of this. Man, I wanted to highlight a couple more things that you said. And it's one of those days where I just forget things. You know what I've noticed is I cut you off often, so I'm trying not to. So now I'm thinking about not cutting you off, and now I forget the thing I'm supposed to say.
That's all right.
But we're getting there. I haven't cut him off as much today. And
You can
we're
see
worse
why.
as a result.
You can see why my chapters are longer in that book too. But I think, the goal, to tie it all back, is like the goal of formation is to not miss the point. And I think the parable you started off talking about, the Pharisees, or the priests and the Levites they'd done all this stuff, but they'd missed the point because they hadn't become people. You know, there's the intention of the law, and this is a little controversial, but there's an interpretation of the law in the Old Testament that says that the only point of the law is to show you that you didn't measure up, so that you needed to save, you needed the sacrificial system, which is true. But I also think there's an element of the law that says, like, no, this was supposed to form you. You're supposed to leave a corner of your crops for the poor to feed as they're walking through your fields, so that you become a generous person. So these laws or practices, though they don't earn you anything, are still meant to shape you into somebody.
Isn't that when it's helpful to realize the different categories of the law, like the ceremonial versus like some of those laws, like do not mark your bodies or have tattoos. That was like zigging where the world was zagging, because the surrounding cultures, they used it as like a sacrifice to pagan gods to take people out of purgatory. So, but like the principle of leaving your crops to feed the poor. I think we should, as Christians, we're still going to do that today. And I did, let me go. So Christian Dawson, he had a sermon on the Good Samaritan that I listened to. And I think what you're naming, he had a pretty good paradigm for it. My sermon was long enough, so I didn't add it in. But it talks about like rituals. Rituals, we're pretty convinced, are good, beautiful things in the right spot. So like,
what do you mean by ritual? Yeah, go ahead.
So like a ritual of Sabbath, where it's like, man, we start by lighting a candle, and we do it every Friday, and like we start with breakfast. All those things, those are rituals. And you know, like Viking Feast is a fun annual ritual that our church loves. Christmas, so like rituals are beautiful. But he argued, like, so the priest and the Levite, they understood ritual. They memorized the two greatest commands. What was wrong? How did they miss it? And I think what they're missing in their everyday life, and what you just named, is reflection. So when you pair ritual with reflection, you're constantly asking, what's the heart behind this? Why am I doing this? So like, imagine if the priest and the Levite, when they went home that day, they reflected on their day and thought, God, where did I love you with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength? And where did I not? And sit in that. And then, God, where did I love my neighbor as myself? And where did I not? So in theory, that the Holy Spirit would bring up in your mind, remember that wounded traveler that you just went to the other side? That's the one you should have loved and served today. So as a Christian in the New Covenant, we don't beat ourselves up. We repent and then think, okay, Lord, give me another opportunity to find another wounded traveler, and give me the grace and the strength and the patience to meet them where they're at and serve them.
Yeah, it's an easy way to habituate that. And I think what you're referring to is the prayer of examine, which is one of the hardest practices, I think, to do.
Because it's to slow down. We're too busy, but we're not too busy, you know.
That's not what I said, and that's not what I meant.
People love the banter. I just want to say. That's
why I brought it up. Well, no, I think we are busy. You're right, but some of that busyness is good.
Yeah, I think there's a bad version of that where it's like there's no hustle, there's no no. I think there needs to be godly ambition.
Or even, I just don't want people to feel guilt because, you know,
especially the stage of parenting you're in.
I was gonna say I don't want to feel guilt.
Yes.
No, I think people with young kids especially, where it's like, I've done everything I can. God, I do not have 2 hours to spend, and I just don't. I can't do this.
Right.
And I don't think God is being like, well, you better pick it up, or whatever. I think it is though. Am I filling my life with the right things? And then, am I willing to be inconvenienced at a moment's notice?
And like Rolheiser would argue, in your stage of parenting,
sure, yeah,
find margin in moments.
Yes, yep. Tyler Staton has a thing where he talks about when his I think he says his boys are still young or something like that, but redefining prayer to be, and we talked about this with the prayer practice, but prayer is not just conversing with God, it's communing with God. I don't know if he says that, but that's how I interpret it. And so like when he's home with his kids, playing in the morning instead of getting work done right away, early in the morning can be a form of him communing with God by actually making himself available to this person. And Jesus is abundantly clear, I think, throughout the Gospels, that if you, we'll see this in Matthew 25, the end of that, which is another series of parables. When whenever you saw the least of these and you served them, you served me.
Yeah.
So there is something about like, you actually do commune with God in your interaction with others, specifically if it's for the purpose of serving. I think you encounter God, and that is a form of prayer. If prayer is about communion with God, serving others, whether it's your kids, a homeless person, a coworker, a spouse, whatever, is a way to actually experience the love of God that you can, in a way that you can't experience with just you and your quiet time and your Bible and Sabbath or whatever.
Right. All of a sudden, prayer without ceasing seems actually a little more attainable.
It's possible. I think what Paul has in mind there is live your life. It's like worship. Worship is not just an act of singing. It's living your life in such a way that you're orienting yourself towards God. And I think prayer, like the Good Samaritan,
taking anything you're grateful for and connecting it to the Creator.
Yeah. So if it's like enjoying the laughter of your kids or whatever, or like an extra scoop of ice cream or something, it's you're enjoying the life that God has given you for the purpose of communing with Him. I think the disconnect is it's hard for people to experience, like, I need to grow in my spiritual faith. And this is kind of what you named, like, I'm too weak or I'm too broken. I need to grow first so that I'm then able to serve others. What?
No, he's talking positively about my sermon. We're making progress, guys.
Who do you think I am? What is the character? Where have I gone
I'm
wrong?
only laughing about that joke, but then you had to ask it. So,
well, I think, well, now I forgot what I was saying.
Now I seem so insecure. This is just a fun joke.
We think that I need to commune with God. I need to pray. I need to read my Bible. I need to get better, more healthy, spiritually mature, grow before I can serve. And I think the point of this is, I think there's Jesus seems to be saying there's something.
That's the way.
Yes, that is the way. You're missing something. Like, you cannot grow the way you want and the way that you think you should unless you're actually giving your life away.
Yeah.
Even if it just means being inconvenienced for a moment. That is just as formative as an hour spent in prayer or in Bible reading, both of which are vital and necessary.
I actually think that's why the fasting, prayer, and witness practice is important to apply for the Good Samaritan.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like also with the fasting and prayer, it does keep you more in tune with the Spirit of God that, am I supposed to bless that when to travel today or not? So I think us hearing the voice of God is really important, and learning that only comes, I believe, through that repetition of fasting and praying. And then the witness practice is helpful because it's like, how do I serve people? Well, the biggest thing they need, we need to meet their physical needs, but also talk to them about the gospel, then the kingdom of God and His original plan. Another thing, random, but you were saying it and I didn't want to butt in, but like doing the prayer practice helped me redefine what prayer was. And I think you can get so where you just include everything as prayer that all of a sudden you realize you're never praying, so like you can get too far with this. But I posted this on Strava. I'm a runner, and so every runner has a Strava. So I posted on Strava, like, I just love running because, like, it's my favorite way to pray. So then a great pastor in Florida replied and goes, "You're more spiritual than me. I never pray when I run." And I was thinking, like, it was fun banter, but I also was thinking, most of my praying is actually silence. Mm-hmm. So it's not like I'm talking, but to me, I've learned that this is an act of prayer, to allow God to fill my mind and my thoughts and to offer it up to Him and say, like, God, where are you directing me today? Like, take my thoughts, and like, to me, that's prayer. Mm-hmm. And I think helping, I don't know, just like the reflection piece and everything we're already saying, like, there's so much more to the practices than like, I checked off this box. It's not marking off tallies for God. It's marking out time with God. Page 103 on the, no, I don't know what.
I was like, oh my goodness, you need to put that book down. Yeah, this is a great setup. I don't think we have time to talk about this. Maybe next week. Maybe we could talk about this next podcast, is like what we hoped the practices did and where there's still room.
Yeah, I definitely want to do that next.
What they didn't do. Because I think the mistake, and hopefully people maybe got this as a takeaway if they're wrestling with it, the teaching from yesterday is, yeah, have I just tried Sabbath and assumed that it would check a box and okay, I'm good now? Or like, what else is there? There's you and I know, I mean, we've been studying this quite literally for years, right? Way longer than the past 3 years.
Totally.
So we know there's what we've done is we've introduced you to what life could look like. And now we're kind of mining the depths to see like what that's going to be and how it's actually going to shape you and form you and what reflection can look like. And
Yeah. So remind me to remind them about the spiritual survey.
Yeah.
Spiritual health survey. But the big thing that I do want us to discuss, maybe it's next week as well, is do we expect, scratch that, do we hope a typical member at Passion Creek actually practices all 9? So like yeah, I think that's a good question to.
Yeah. What given our 9 practices, how are we hoping or expecting, I think is a good way.
Yeah.
What are we expecting from like church members at Passion Creek to participate in?
Right.
At what level? What are we hoping to get out of this? Yeah, that's great.
Like I've heard people I've just heard people say like, of course you're not expecting us to do all 9, like that would be insane. And I think I love that conversation.
Yep.
And I think we have to hold, do we jump into this now?
Sure.
I think we need to hold that this is all invitational still. Right. So yes, it's all open, but like if truly our call is to be fully formed by the image of Jesus, fully formed by Jesus together for others, to stick with our branding. I find it hard I can't pick one of those 9. I think there's more than the 9.
Yeah.
Like we haven't mentioned like what our practices, right? So you can like corporate practices like communion. We do that, but we didn't like name it. But hospitality, we did talk about communion. Yeah. Wow, we got to figure it out. But so anyways, worship, right? But you could argue that's
all
a
of
form
them are
prayer,
worship,
and this is all worship. But I'm talking about music worship.
Sure.
Sorry. So anyways, there are more than the 9. I think at least I would argue, and we talked about this. So let's take. I just think they all need to be very familiar tools in your tool belt.
Yeah. I think the short answer I would give is we are not expecting it. Sorry. The short answer I would give is I am not expecting someone to have one of every single practice from every single guide that we ever wrote. One of those specific, like for peacemaking, I think it's like wildly unrealistic to say like, yeah, you should create a genogram every like
good point.
couple months
Yes,
or whatever.
Because we put so many practices within each practice.
The practice was like have dinner with a sinner this week.
Yeah.
Like I'm not expecting you to do that every single week. I think the months were like intensives where we were saying like we're going to throw everything at you to see what you can take and what works and what doesn't. So I think generally speaking, when people ask that, they're wondering like, I would assume they're wondering, are you expecting that I keep doing all these practices from these guides specifically that we've laid out forever? And it's like, well, probably not, because it's like just incredibly unrealistic to like host that many people in your home and things like that. I think what you're saying though is, no, we're not expecting you to do every single one of those at all times, but we are expecting you to have like a posture of hospitality. And like you should be open to having people over, and you should be practicing community, which could be its own practice, but within the context of hospitality. Or like, yeah, maybe you don't Sabbath every week, but like you have a rhythm of Sabbath and you do it when you can. It's a priority. Maybe you miss a day of reading scripture or a week or a month, but you come back to it. Maybe you don't pray the examen or whatever every day, but you are a prayerful person. I think that's what we're getting at, because the danger is we could slip into like, if they misunderstand your answer, they're like, well, then I'm the Levite and I'm the priest who's filling my days with so much stuff I'm not able to go and serve. And what we're trying to say is we at Passion Creek, our hope is that you would be so engaged or so like familiar with the practices that you know what God is inviting you to do to form you in this current season of life that you're in.
Love that answer. Yes, that. Because I think it's invitational, but to me, if I'm thinking of a fully formed, mature follower of Jesus as anchored in like Ephesians 4, it seems those 9 are non-negotiable.
Yes, you can't say like, I tried peacemaking, but I don't like it. I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you are, God's given us the ministry of reconciliation. You have to, if you're in Christ, you have to do this.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not, like you can't help but do it.
Yeah, and even like Sabbath. Okay, you don't do the 24-hour thing.
Sure.
But a rhythm of rest.
You need to get rest.
Yes.
To be a human means you need to get rest. You cannot argue. Yeah.
Yes. And to be a loving person, like that was one of the arguments we made that's in the book. To be a person of love usually requires you to be a person of rest. Like
yes.
For your at the end of the night, around 9:30 for me, I'm the worst person to be around because I've been up all day and I'm tired. And my My patience is worn thin, which, maybe could argue that's who I really am.
Yeah.
Right. But it's like, man, I'm a better person well rested.
Yeah. And the danger is like you say, so like the end goal of Sabbath is to become a person who's able to detach your identity from work and rely on God.
Yes.
We would argue, I mean, if somebody says like, so what would you say if somebody says like, oh, if that's what it is, I don't need Sabbath. I already feel good. I know how to get rest, and I'm already detached from my work and I trust God.
Yeah, I would say
No, you don't.
you're not self-aware.
Yeah.
Or it's like, let's talk about work, and like, is it holy enough? Do you actually care enough about it? Because I remember when we did college ministry, one guy mentioned that, how he's like, he said, I'm never anxious. I'm never stressed. And I remember going, bro, I think you need to be.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have enough drive in life. Like, you really don't care. You just wake up and exist.
Yeah.
So like, there's that other balance of like, do you care enough about your job? Are you working hard enough where you're tired when you get home? Because you should be. Yeah. There's something about that too.
So part of, I think, what we want to do, not to give anything away, but as we continue talking about the practices over the next years, is showing like, what does Sabbath, not just as a practice, mean for setting aside 24 hours, but like for Sabbath, for example, what does that mean for how you carry yourself into work?
Yes.
Like, how do you broaden it to like include vocation and things like that? So
I'm going to name what you and I are feeling. A pastor friend of ours posted this on his Instagram this morning. It's from Eugene Peterson's pastoral series. This one looks like it's from, Pastoral World of Prayer Directing. That's the chapter name. Anyways, it looks like this. Here's this quote, and I think it names what we're feeling, because I think we did a good job laying out a pretty clear roadmap for those 3 years, and now we're going like, hey, just be clear, though. It's not that clear.
Yeah.
So, it is not the pastor's job to simplify the spiritual life, to devise common denominator formulas, to smooth out the path of discipleship. Some difficulties are inherent in the way of spiritual growth. To deny them, to minimize them, or to offer shortcuts is to divert the person from true growth. It is the pastor's task, rather, to be companion to persons who are in the midst of difficulty, to acknowledge the difficulty and thereby give it significance, and to converse and pray with them through the time so that the loneliness is lightened somewhat and hope is maintained somehow.
I saw that this morning.
You did?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a bar.
Yeah. I think Eugene Peterson was so aware of like both the like depth of what God can do in a person and also the depth of complexity that exists within each person. Mm-hmm. So for him, pastoring wasn't about quick fixes and like building a thing. It was about leading people, guiding people, shepherding people towards a God who can meet them and heal them. And that, if that's your goal as a pastor, and I would say that's our like aspirational goal at Passion Creek, that requires, a lot of nuance and a lot of conversations and a lot of like, what we're not trying to do is create a hard and fast rule where we can say, oh, you're doing all 9. Great. You're good. You're in the clear. You're good to go.
Yes.
But hopefully I think these practices are revealing who you are before God. Like you said, when you don't get rest and you're tired, that's probably your flesh. I think that the scripture has a category for that, and that is who you are, but it's not who you were made to be.
Yeah.
So it's a core part. Man. Yeah. Yeah.
So spiritual health survey.
Yeah.
Give the pitch.
Yeah. We're offering a spiritual health assessment to our church. So I would say this is for you if you've been coming to our church. I don't know. I've thought about giving this caveat. Like if you're a first-time visitor, you could probably still take it. I don't know.
Sure.
But the goal is, and maybe this will help clarify.
I think the main thing is like if you feel like this is home.
Yes, we definitely want you to take it if you feel like Passion Creek Church is your home church. So the goal is to assess first of all, how self-aware are our people, but also how what is the spiritual growth level of the people, broadly speaking, on average, what do we do really well at? Coming off of these 3 years, we obviously have introduced a lot of these practices and we've done deep dives into all of them, and hopefully people are integrating these, but we want to know, what are we really strong at? Are we great at like slowing down and kind of communing with God, but really weak at serving others or being around others who aren't like us, or vice versa? What are the demographics? We also include some really practical stuff, which just helps us as we plan for the future, like logistically. So
right.
That's why obviously with the land and the building, it's helpful for us to know like the general age of the people in our churches, the education level, household income, all that stuff.
These are things every building loan asks
Yes,
before
yeah.
qualify. So it's just another helpful way for us to really make sure what we're giving
is accurate and up to date. So there's like an actual purpose for that. It's not just so we know, it's so that we can do something with that information.
Yeah.
But yeah, the goal is that we can tell, and hopefully a goal
and it's anonymous
for you. Yes, it is anonymous. Again, there's no way we cannot trace it to you. But hopefully the goal for us is that we get that information. We can kind of plan and pray for the next season of our church, but also for the people taking this as individuals, you can see like, oh, this is maybe what I'm doing really well at, or, oh, I missed the mark. This is not who I actually am.
And that's not to condemn you, but to invite you even further into the deep waters.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. What should the comment down below be?
Try and spell Mr. Miyagi.
Wow. Good. I was thinking wax on, wax off.
Yeah.
So that's even better. So, all right. Grace and peace, guys. See you on the next one.